Forgot to unmute. Hello everyone, my name is Zach and welcome to another live stream of, another writer's analysis stream, I should say. Excuse me. Today we are going to be focusing on analyzing the character of God in my novel project, Dim Shadow of Spade, as well as the overall novel series as well that I have dubbed the Dim Saga. Now, expect spoilers for this recently published book, Dim Shadow of Spade, as well as the overall series as a whole, because I'm going to be discussing some information that was kind of hinted at in the series, but and also some information that was that either won't be expanded on until later and won't be brought up until much later. For example, one of the things I'm going to be talking about is nuances within the persona of Jehovah. Many of these nuances won't be fully explained until later on in this current trilogy, and some of which won't be explained until the second and third trilogy. That being said, let's go ahead and get things started. God is one of my deeply flawed characters, one of my most flawed characters, I should say. Oh, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Muting you. Alright, God is probably one of my most flawed characters in my story. He is a character that is depicted, like, you first see him in essentially chapter 1, like after the prologue, where Alec goes to meet with Alec Lowe, the main protagonist, goes to meet with the Outer Council, and he encounters a character of God. He immediately takes a shining to Alec and decides to allow Alec to go on this dangerous mission to prove himself, because he had a feeling that he would be important. The feeling wouldn't really be elaborated on until later on in the story, like why he had a feeling that Alec was important. But God's character is essentially motivated, trying to find the scene. He's motivated by like his past mistakes, as well as something that he foresaw in the future that actively like terrifies him. Like, here's where the character of God is saying, like this scene here when Alec first meets with the Elder Council. God is someone that has a multiple personality disorder. When I designed him, I decided to go against the Judeo-Christian beliefs of God being all-powerful and all-knowing, and I decided to just kind of tone back that and just kind of make him appear more human to be more relatable to the audience. I kind of felt that if I had a God be all-powerful and all-knowing, then not only would certain plot points be not even a surprise to him, because God will already know like what would take place. It would already know like every single event that would take place, and there wouldn't really be any real threats to this unless like I would recommend God to know the future but not act on the future. And as for the all-powerful thing, I decided to still kind of keep that trait. God is still probably one of the most powerful characters in the verse, but the character of God is designed to be a pacifist. He doesn't use his powers to harm, but rather, as he said later on in the story, to create. He is someone that is the persona of God is sort of like a character that revolves around his emotions. He has like 3 different personas that fall under the name God. A child persona, which he uses for comedic situations or when he's bored. A adult persona for normal everyday occurrences, and an elder persona when he wants to appear wise and in control. These personas were created as a way for him to try and become a leader, a better leader for those around him. but it was also created sort of as a cushion, a padding for his acknowledgments of his past mistakes in a previous life. Basically, God, like as of like a thousand years ago in this story, in the events of the story, like after the like sort of like after the last apocalypse, and I didn't discuss later on when I discussed the environment of hell. Uh, God was living under the persona of Jehovah for at least for several thousand years. And Jehovah is a character. Jehovah isn't really a name, but it is a title. Jehovah isn't God's true name. Jehovah is a title that he was given. Basically, in God's homeland, where he and his people came from, they have a position within their society that is deeply venerated and respected, called the title Jehovah. Basically, what this means is Jehovah translates to bright one, and in their culture, in their language. And basically, what this is, like how someone gains the rank, gains the title of Jehovah. Jehovah is a title given to people who have proven that they are an expert in all fields of knowledge, in all fields of science and history and mathematics, pretty much every single field of study they have proven to be very knowledgeable on. And the basically how this test works is this is something that this is a test that spans back like centuries and centuries of knowledge from God's people. This test set has like thousands of questions and is possibly one of the hardest tests you can take in this universe. You need to get a 90% or higher in order to pass. You need to do this. You are allowed to take breaks, but the breaks are supervised to prevent you from studying and kind of like cheating or looking up the answer essentially. And these tests, the test itself can take several days to complete. God, through the character Jehovah, through years of hard work and study, has become the first in centuries to attain the rank of Jehovah. And he basically, or I really should try and get more in the habit of it. I'm not ready to reveal the character Jehovah yet in the story, so I'm trying to use terms that are kind of vague and not like defining any gender. The character of God is male. I want Jehovah and Jehovah's identity to be vague until I'm ready to reveal them in book 3. Now, when I'm trying to use pronouns they them to refer to Jehovah, do not take this to mean that Jehovah is trans. I'm just trying not to use like he she pronouns until I'm ready to reveal them, because I want to maintain the mystery regarding the character Jehovah for as much as possible. So if you hear me say he or she or they or them, do not think anything of it. I'm just kind of getting my pronouns mixed up, and I'm trying to be more consistent when I'm talking about Jehovah, but it's honestly kind of difficult. I have an idea of what Jehovah will be like, what Jehovah will look like, and I kind of already gave a hint of what Jehovah looks like in the story. But I haven't fully revealed Jehovah's character, and I won't fully reveal Jehovah's character until book 3. And with that being said, Jehovah was essentially the first to attain the title Jehovah for the past several centuries, and they were able to kind of pursue like any sort of field study that they desired. But the problem is, God's people, their homeland where they came from, they are a people that values military might and scientific achievement above all else. And there was one field of study that was banned by God's people, which is a study of life, the study of creating life, the study of like cloning will be like one of the studies that will be banned within God's people. And this was kind of like a decision made when when essentially God's people have essentially unlocked the secrets to immortality. God and his people are immortal. They're incapable of dying of old age. They can only die of disease or physical trauma. And because the God's people have now become immortal, they have perfected the essentially they have perfected the essentially eternal life. The military has become like an important tool for God's people in terms of conquest. They use their military to colonize other worlds that would be capable of sustaining life. And because that in God's world, and like his people are far reaching and are across a multiple different across a many different solar systems. But and this is like all information that I'm not planning on releasing until formally until book 3, but it's something that I want to illustrate for here, just to give an insight on who Jehovah was, because I did kind of hint at this information through dialogue, but I haven't really like explained what this is, and I won't be able to explain what this is until the 3rd trilogy. And anyway, like God ended up like becoming fascinated with the concept, or Jehovah became fascinated with the concept of life and with the mysteries of it. So he kind of gathered like-minded individuals who had their research halted because of this ban, and they kind of researched this in separate, which kind of caused them to be sort of renegades, enemies of the government. And eventually, an event happened that made it so that they couldn't return home anymore, and they got stranded in our world. And Jehovah and his people were collectively responsible for creating the Big Bang that created our universe. And what Jehovah witnessed sort of corrupted their mind. They kind of believe themselves to be literally God, like being all powerful and all knowing. They pushed others, their allies, aside, believing that what they believed was right. And they kind of drove a wedge between themselves and their closest allies. And basically, like, because of Jehovah's behavior changing radically due to what they witnessed, half of God's people end up leaving God's side and kind of abandoning him and kind of living somewhere else. And this kind of culminated up until like 1,000 years ago, when Jehovah witnessed what their actions have created, and it kind of caused him to completely change course. And they abandoned the persona of Jehovah. They abandoned their former form, and they adopted the forms of God to try and become a better leader, to try and become more approachable, to try and become something that they could never be as Jehovah. They chose to live as God, the 3 different personas of God, as a way to try and right their wrongs of the past. God is essentially a character that is driven by emotions, while Jehovah is a character driven by ego and logic. When I was in grad school, when I first showed the story off to my classmates, one of my peers said that the character of God and how I kind of described the personas kind of reminded him of the Old Testament and New Testament versions of God. For the uninitiated, Old Testament God was all fire and brimstone. He destroyed Sodom, the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, and turned Lot into a pillar of salt for witnessing his power. He created a global flood to kill pretty much all life on Earth except for Moses, his family, and like pretty much two of every species of animal. He like did so many not really horrible. I guess it's kind of horrible. It just really kind of depends on how you view it. Like he was just all wrathful. He's all like uh powerful and all this kind of stuff. But the God in the New Testament is clearly like just made for forgiveness. He is completely different to the God from the Old Testament. It's almost like the character of God from Old Testament and New Testament are completely different characters. And that is kind of something that one of my classmates noticed is that what he hasn't seen the character of Jehovah at the time, but he thought that the character, the personas of God being younger, his child persona, and the the elder persona to be reflective of the New Testament and the Old Testament version of God. In reality, I think that the character of God is kind of meant to reflect the New Testament version of God, while the character of Jehovah is kind of meant to represent the Old Testament version of God. Um, God is someone. The reason why God's persona was adopted is something that hasn't actually. It's not just like due to what he witnessed 1,000 years ago when the last apocalypse attempt happened. It's also I'm trying to think. It's also has to do with something that he witnessed in like sort of a vision of the future. And I am gonna try and find a scene. Here it is. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read this out. 1,000 years ago, God foresaw a dark future revealed by his seers. He believed he would lose everything, so he began taking steps to prevent it. He believed certain key figures could change the future. You are one of them. I was tasked with creating you a Nephilim and ensuring your survival. So this dark future that he witnessed was something that is not going to be revealed until the final trilogy, but it's something that's going to be hinted at for a while. And basically, this future that God foresaw, that Jehovah foresaw, that caused them to adopt the personas of God, it caused him to take drastic measures in order to prevent this dark future. He immediately he chose to adopt the personas of God to try and fix the mistakes that he would make as Jehovah, that he has made as Jehovah, that would kind of set them on the path of this dark future. That is one of the reasons why the personas of God has developed. The future that God had foreseen ended up completely changing like his motivations in life. It completely waked him up of this like arrogant stupor phase that he was under the personas of Jehovah. And instead he tried to become a better leader, tried to become a better person. He tried to fix his mistakes to try and prevent this future from happening. And the last thing that I'm going to say about God for right now is in relation to the last one of the last scenes you see here. There is a moment at the end of the book where the character Georgie notice God kind of going, walking away from a place that where instead of like, because God was supposed to be in a meeting with one of his elders, and Georgie kind of saw he was in a place where he was supposed to be, so he was curious and he followed God to a special room in an isolated part of the Hyde Agency, and God, uh, Georgie overheard God communicating with this entity, this unseen force. And I'm going to go ahead and read this section here because I think that's very important for understanding God's character and what I was just kind of talking about. I told you the Hyde Agency and what my world is like to prevent this disaster where I lost everything. Now let me tell you the story of someone who will be the key to solving this. This is the first chapter of the Hyde agent Alec Lowe, someone who would become ... dot dot dot. This is something that I'm gonna be teasing at the end of every single story up until the final trilogy. Really the end of the final trilogy. This is gonna be like a major mystery. Who is God talking to? We don't know. I know, obviously, but I'm not gonna say it here because I think it'd be more fun for the reader to speculate. What I will say is this is God's attempt to another attempt by God to change the future. But the question that I want to ask to the reader, to the viewer, God is clearly telling a story to some unknown person or unknown entity. What, in your eyes as a reader, would telling a story to someone unknown, something unknown, what would telling a story do to affect a future event? This is something that I kind of want the readers to kind of focus on as the story develops, because I'm going to be having scenes just like this at the end of every single book up until the end of the fourth trilogy. I'm going to be releasing a little bit more information regarding this identity of this mysterious force, this mysterious figure. And I'm also going to be kind of adding some backstory into why God is doing this. This is God's attempt to try and fix everything. When he's not, like, through most of the story, you see him like outside, like interacting with different people, trying to rebuild relationships, all this kind of things. That is something he's doing on his own to try and like prevent this future. And also the reason why he had Alec Lowe be allowed Alec Lowe to go on this journey is also because of this future. Because he knew that Alec Lowe will be important in some way of preventing this future, so he had Alec Lowe go ahead and start his journey. I am not ready to fully discuss everything of what the future that God witnessed. This is something I'm going to be revealing a little bit at a time throughout the course of this story. So you're going to have to like piece together what this future is, what exactly happened in this future over the course of this series. What I will say is whether or not God is end up being successful or not in preventing this is not really the point, I guess I'll say. I don't think the character of God is desperate. The God was created as an act of desperation. He desperately wants to avert this future. But something that he will learn is, well, sometimes if you try and change, like something that I will say, this is a plot point that was kind of brought up in many TV shows and movies and books that involve time travel. This is even brought up with Back to the Future, I believe. If you try and alter a historical event, sometimes a worse event is in its place. I'm not saying that that will for sure happen, but God will realize over time that he may he may have kind of like bit off more than he can chew, is what I'll say. This is something that he's gonna have to learn and grow over time. That sometimes, like this, his character is entirely based on him remedying his mistakes, but him all trying to alter this future event will kind of cause him to kind of make more mistakes. He's a character much like myself. I'm like a person that is heavily that my life is built upon past mistakes and how I learned to overcome them. In some ways, God is doing the same thing. He's someone that made a lot of mistakes in the past and he's trying to right them, but in turn, he's making many more mistakes. Whether or not like him trying to alter this future event will be a major mistake in his life is again like it's not really the point. Like he is the point of the character of God is that is not that he trying to it's not that he's trying to it's not that he's trying to fix his mistakes. It's that he's trying to do better in spite of his mistakes. He's trying to show that he has changed to his friends and peers, and he's trying to do the right thing and try and like show others and try and be a good leader. It's something that he hasn't been in years. I feel like that most people today they encounter a scenario where they fucked up massively either in their social life and work and school, and they couldn't really find a way to fix it, and no matter how hard they try they often kind of make things worse. God, as I said in the beginning of the story, is someone that will become relatable to pretty much every single person because God does that. He will do that a lot in the series. And in some ways, God is essentially like a version of myself. Like I kind of view like a lot of the characters in the story in the series kind of have some traits of myself. God, in my opinion, is someone that is kind of the most like myself. He is someone that made a lot of mistakes. He's someone to right. He's someone trying to right those wrongs. He is someone that is viewed as very intelligent, but because of his portrayal in the story, most people probably would not see him as intelligent. He is someone that is haunted by his past. He is someone that is trying to trying to do better, trying to improve himself, trying to improve the lives of those around him. In many ways, God is essentially like another. In many ways, that God is very similar to myself. That how He is written is very similar to how I lived, how I grew up, the experiences that I had, and I think that when this series is over, God will probably be one of the characters that people will be attached to the most. He'll be the characters that people. He'll be the character that people are drawn to. I realized that in this first book, God may kind of be. He probably is. Apparently, he's probably the character that people are drawn to the most, basically because of how his personas work. But he's gonna be more than a comic relief character. He's gonna be more than a flashy character with a wacky personality. He's going to be someone that is going to be very important towards the development of the series. And I can only hope that as time goes on, as the series develops, that God will become more than just a standard character, standard side character or whatever. He will become a character that I genuinely believe people will be talking about for ages. It is my personal dream at this point as a writer that people, like, when this story just kind of gets off the ground, people will kind of have discussions about like certain aspects of this book. It's kind of my personal desire to one day kind of experience people having discussions of where which is better, which decides that the right or wrong, the Hyde Agency or the Demons of Hell. God and his motivations, God and his story and his history and his past and his future. He is someone that I'm kind of hoping that people will talk about the most. This story, even though it seems to be focused on characters like Alec Lowe and their journey, this story and every book in this series is also focused on the character of God. God will have an important role in every single book in this series. And it's really, like, as the main character is kind of going on his journey, as Alec Lowe is going on this journey, as Charlotte Matthews, as Jean-Michel Devereaux is going through their journey in their respective trilogies, God will be kind of going on a parallel journey. And his character won't be wrapped up in full until the very end, until the 13th and final book, which will focus on the character of God. God will eventually, his book, his 13th book, I'm hoping it will be my swan song. I'm hoping that it will be the book that completely makes the series. That being said, I think that's going to do it for today. Thursday stream may be canceled. Stay alone. Stay alone. Stand by for a response announcement on Twitter and Blue Sky. Basically, I kind of hit a wall with my writing, with my story. I need to figure out a way to get past it. And if I'm unable to find a solution on Thursday, then I will cancel the Thursday stream. If I'm unable to find this solution by Tuesday, I will cancel Tuesday's stream. I am prepared to cancel upcoming streams during the week if a solution doesn't come to be fast. But as of right now, tomorrow's stream may be canceled. Tuesday's stream may be canceled. Wednesday's stream may be canceled. Keeps on going on until I find a solution. For the next writer's analysis stream, when I get to it, it's going to be focusing on analyzing the Hyde Agency, what the Hyde Agency are like, what the command structure is like, what the group is like. All these type of things will be analyzed within the Hyde Agency, within the upcoming video analyzing the Hyde Agency. I have a plan after we discuss Hyde Agency to analyze the Demons of Hell. It's going to be like a kind of like a more video in comparison to everything else, mainly because a lot of what I have revealed about demons is kind of vague. Mainly because I expand on the concept of demons more in book 2 than I have in book 1. Book 1 is more focused on demons. Book 2 will be kind of more focused on demons. That being said, that's going to do for today. I think that I think I'm ready to kind of end this recording. Again, like, really do apologize. I realize I kind of talked a lot about like future events of this story. I realize I kind of talked a lot about things that probably won't be discussed or analyzed until the second or third trilogy. I really do apologize for that. It's just a lot of like information about God that was kind of hinted at in this first book that I kind of wanted to expand on more here. So hopefully you guys will kind of forgive me for kind of giving this information out early, but I kind of feel like it might be better for me to give this information out early rather than you having to wait for like a decade and a half for this third trilogy to come out. That being said, if you are interested in what I see today, I'm going to be all against the government channel will be played from percent completion. I'm gonna be streaming Far Cry 4 from percent completion on Fridays, 1 p.m. to 5 Pacific Standard Time. I'm gonna be streaming Jessica's 1 for 100% completion on Saturdays, 1 p.m. to 5 Pacific Standard Time. And I'm gonna be streaming Borderlands 3 for 1% completion on Sundays, 1 p.m. to 5 Pacific Standard Time. In addition to that, Tuesdays through Thursdays, going to be hosting writers analysis streams focusing on my writing. Tuesdays and Thursdays, going to be hosting writers workshop streams. I'm going to be working on my next book. Wednesdays going to be writers analysis streams. Writers workshop streams, I kind of went ahead too fast. Going to be from 1 p.m. to 5 Pacific Standard Time. Wednesdays going to be writers analysis streams. It's going to be 1 p.m. to an undetermined amount of time. Those streams are going to be analyzing some aspect of my creative work. That being said, that's going to do it for today. And again, like Thursdays, tomorrow's stream may be canceled. Stand by for information on that. That's going to do it for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.